Hi, Rens. Thanks
Hi,
for
Peter.
thanks for taking the time to do this one-on-one.
No problem. No problem at all.
So, how do we start? You shared your screen with me on Skype.
Yes. Um, what I'm going to do is I'm basically just going to walk you through the lab,
Mm-hmm.
sort of corner by corner,
Mm-hmm.
uh, and basically just give you the tips or advice
Mm-hmm.
what you can do differently
Mm-hmm.
to be able to get a little bit more lap time out of it.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and at the same time, we also try to make that uh, having an effect on your consistency.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think
We're
I
gonna mainly be
definitely.
focusing on we're gonna
Yeah.
mainly focusing on your inputs and your driving lines.
Okay. Yeah, and I definitely need to work on my consistency because I can be quick on a single lap, but then my average lap times are usually like half a second slower than my fastest lap time, whereas Martti is typically like within a tenth or a couple of tenths, and I guess depending on the track, I know you guys are way more consistent than I am.
Yeah, it's consistency is the most important thing. Not only in terms of getting good results, but also to help to improve.
Mm-hmm.
That way, it's easy to adjust something in your driving or in your lap and actually keep repeating that over and over.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not a one-off improvement.
Okay.
Right, let me walk you through the lab.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so I'm going to start at turn one,
Mm-hmm.
uh, Zandvoort.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to mainly start focus on your braking.
Mm-hmm.
As you can see, um, the purple line, the reference line from Marty's data pack,
Mm-hmm.
he actually brakes start braking at the same point as you, but he brakes slightly less hard,
Mm-hmm.
but for longer, and especially longer into the turn.
Mm-hmm. Oh, okay, so the purple line is Marty. Okay.
Yeah, the dotted line is Marty's reference lap,
Okay.
and the purple line here.
Uh-huh.
As you can see, he does the majority of his braking in the straight line,
Mm-hmm.
as you can see to here for the on this little map.
Mm-hmm.
And when he starts to turn in, he comes up it, but he
Mm-hmm.
keeps carrying a little bit more brake towards his slowest point.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Another thing he does very differently, uh,
Mm-hmm.
he turns in a lot later, so he sort of late apexes it,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
which helps you gain a little bit of time on entry,
Mm-hmm.
um, but it also helps straighten out the exit,
Mm-hmm.
which is quite important here.
Mm-hmm.
And as you can see, even though he had a slightly slower speed mid corner,
Mm-hmm.
uh, it actually helped him getting a very good exit.
Okay.
Another thing I noticed with your fastest lap, once you want to go on the throttle,
Mm-hmm.
it's quite important to pick a moment so that you don't have to get off it again.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
In your fastest lap, you go full throttle and then go off it twice,
Yeah.
which sort of hurts the momentum quite badly.
Yeah. Because I think I would have run off track otherwise.
Yeah, and that will also help if you turn in a little bit later. Then
Yeah.
you feel that you would need less road on exit.
Yeah. So essentially, Marty takes a slightly wider line because
Yeah,
he's further out at the beginning, so he's able to go on a bigger radius.
yeah. It basically just turns in later, and even if this part of the corner is might even be slightly sharper,
Uh huh.
so why he might have a lower speed, but he can go flat out much sooner.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, and this is where a lot of lap time again is.
Mhm.
Although it's all very subtle.
Yeah. Yeah, so the difficulty I have here is with, because it's a long and wide turn. Um, so I don't think I think I coast a little bit. Maybe I'm too impatient. But I don't really know. It's like I need to feel when I need to go full throttle, because I try to look through the apex and outside, but it's not like you have all that much visibility either.
Yep.
So, and I don't think I have a reference point either to know, okay, now I clip the apex, I can go full throttle. Do you have any advice, like how to? I mean, one thing I see is, yeah, the line is different, definitely different. So maybe if I just correct the entry a little bit, it would be easier. But it just like takes, I don't know how
Well, one
many
of the things at
seconds.
Zandvoort is so you can sort of approach turn one like a double apex.
Mm-hmm.
So you can sort of try to get to the inside quite early.
Mm-hmm.
I guess that's what Marty's doing,
Mm-hmm.
but with more speed than uh, you would have if you would hug the inside completely.
Mm-hmm.
So basically, just overshoot it slightly,
Mm-hmm.
and then just get the rotation a little bit more in the middle of the track, in the middle of the
Mm-hmm.
corner.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So sort of approach it like a double apex.
Okay. Okay.
This corner,
And
also
then
because it's
when,
banked,
go ahead.
also because this corner is banked, you can turn in later than you might expect.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so the moment I hit this point, so if I approach this a double apex, I don't think he's actually staying close to the curb though, on the entry.
I think he's sort of clipping the apex sort of where the curb starts,
Mm-hmm.
and he drifts out wide slightly,
Okay.
and sort of mid corner,
Yeah.
and then he gets the rotation
Okay.
for the exit.
Okay. I'll watch his replay later, but yeah. So I'll just try to be
Another thing
out.
I noticed,
Uh-huh.
sorry,
Yeah. Go ahead.
another thing I noticed is the down changes. How do you change down the gears? Do you blip the
I think
throttle?
on braking I just downshift.
It might be a lot easier if you on your down change give it a slight tap of the on the throttle, as you see
Mm-hmm.
Marty do here.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Basically, as soon as he shifts,
Uh-huh.
it gives it a little bit of throttle, and then it goes into gear a lot easier.
Okay. Okay. So with the Skippy, I mean, I never feel like it's a problem, or would it just be smoother on the transmission?
It should be it should just be smoother when you're driving. Um, I don't have too much experience in skipping myself, so I'm not sure how unsettling this is, but I would always blip
Okay.
on the down change,
Okay.
especially when I see Marty do it as well.
So I should do a little bit of heel and toe.
Well, do you left or right foot brake?
Yeah, I actually do left foot brake. So yeah, so then just a little.
Just a little tap on the throttle.
Got
Yep.
it. Okay.
If you would heel and toe, then you would probably use the clutch.
Mm-hmm.
So then I guess you can do it as well then still.
Yeah. Okay. Okay, so if I do right foot braking, then I would press the clutch a little bit instead of the throttle on the
Yeah,
downshift.
maybe even heel and toe. I mean, I left foot brake myself as well.
Uh-huh.
So I just blip it.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, that's something to keep an eye on. It just helps you, and not necessarily in this corner,
Mm-hmm.
but just in general with the car.
Yeah.
It was just always getting gear nicely
Okay.
without having to ever worry about it.
Yeah. And another thing I notice in Marty's brake trace is that it's sort of very uneven. So it's almost like, is it like he's feeling when he can press harder and release?
He's sort of modulating the brake. He's sort of trying to not get too much close to a locking wheel, I guess. So he brakes hard, gets off it again. This is purely based on feel.
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to maximize the brake without exceeding the grip.
Yeah. My braking is more mechanical. I know when I should brake, and then I'm sort of hard on the brakes, and then gradually releasing pressure.
As you see, you do slow down very effectively. So I don't necessarily see anything wrong here.
Okay.
But yeah, I guess this is a bit of a habit as well. It's something I do myself as well, just like Martti.
Mm-hmm. So can you describe the feeling? How do you know when you can press harder and when to
But
release
it's also
pressure?
a little bit based on what you hear, the sound in the sim.
Mm-hmm.
You can just hear the tires exceeding a certain grip level, and the cars have the tire only has an X amount of grip, which you can either use on turning or braking. So yeah, it's
so
that's
it's
also a reason
mostly
why
auditory. It's mostly what you hear from the tires.
yeah, I think mostly on sound.
Okay. Is there something in my settings I should do to hear the tire sounds better? I know that iRacing has you can configure different levels for different kinds of sounds. I think
I
I
don't
have
think
the defaults.
I don't think I changed anything. What you can do if you feel that you don't really hear it, what you can do is either turn the tires up, or if that's not possible, turn the other sounds down a bit.
Yeah. Okay, so I think I'm just not paying attention. It's probably not that I'm not hearing it.
It's
I'm
not
just not aware.
it's not a very loud sound, but it's very noticeable.
Okay. Okay, so that's something I can try to pay attention to. Just when braking, just pay attention more to the sound.
I guess it's a combination between sound and also what you get through your force feedback.
Yeah.
Sometimes when you feel it, you might notice that it starts to understeer or oversteer even, or they're just getting unstable.
Okay.
So it's a bit of combination, but I think the biggest cue is the sound.
Okay. Yeah, it's something I never really paid attention to, so I'll just try to pay more attention to the sounds. Obviously, for shifting, I hear the revs, and I use that mostly as a cue for when to upshift, downshift. But okay, I'll pay attention to the tire sounds as well.
Yeah, sounds from like the tires are quite important because they sort of make up the lack of actual feel sitting in the car.
Okay. All right.
So yeah, it's also something to keep an eye on. Is to turn the sound up a bit.
Yeah.
Go through the next corner.
So this one, I think that this one is similar because it's again a big radius turn. Is it again a double apex? I think this first kink.
Yeah, it's basically sort of a mini version of the turn one, although it goes in the opposite direction, obviously.
Right.
Usually, it's not really important to as you do as well. So this is not necessarily something you need to change. But some people try maybe to enter it from very far on the right side of the track.
That's what I was doing initially, but then when doing some analysis myself, I noticed that Martti actually stays quite far to the inside. So I tried to replicate what he's doing.
Because when you do that, you basically just maximize this corner and the speed through here. And you don't really lose that much by it here. If you would use the yellow line like you did in the past, then you would lose more time here than you would gain by making it a full normal racing line, basically. And this corner is sort of similar. It's slower speed, and I think the exit is even more important. So just always try to completely focus on the exit, just to get it perfect.
So Where am I losing the most time here? Is it in? I'm a little bit confused because I
Uh,
typically look at the inverse
in
comparison.
the chicane.
No, I mean, yeah, still number 3,
Oh,
but
sorry.
is it on the entry? So sector 3. But is it? I usually look at the laps the other way around. I have myself on the right. So here am I about the same? It's like I'm not losing or gaining time through this first kink.
No, you
Or
basically lose the time on exit.
okay, yeah, I see. So yeah, from essentially is
But
that
it's less than a tenth, so it's very little. But that is
yeah,
where the time loss is.
yeah,
It's
yeah.
all on exit.
Okay. So should I be on the throttle earlier?
Martti is faster and earlier flat out.
Okay.
There's nothing really in the line he does differently.
Mm-hmm.
This is just something, I guess, just having to get used to the car or
Mm-hmm.
knowing what the car can do.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Maybe also knowing the track, because he does run out a little bit further on exit, I see.
He
So I'm not
stays.
sure if he used the curb.
I think that those curves are a little bit tricky to use because they're not very low. So I
Yep.
think he uses it a little bit, maybe half the tire gets on it, but I don't think more than that.
Yeah. Okay. So he just use it enough to not upset the car.
Yeah.
Yeah, which makes a lot of sense. Um,
So,
that's usually always something to work on in general with every track. Is just try to maximize the track. Just use a full width.
right.
Play around with it a bit.
So I think watching the replays, I think he's still able to stay closer. He just hugs the curb closer than I do. He
Yep.
doesn't really hug it all the way. I think around the midpoint he's out a few meters. But I don't know. I'm just not able to hug it that close. I don't know if do I brake. Maybe I brake late or I don't know what I do. But I just for some reason can get myself to. He's really by the curb on sort of the first apex and then on the second apex, and I think I stay out a bit wider.
Yeah, I think he hugs this one a little bit more, and that's also sort of a common thing. How close you dare to go without actually hitting the inside curb,
Mm-hmm.
because that would upset your
Yeah.
exit completely.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, the closer you can get, the shorter the track is basically. So
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
it's also a common thing. Another thing in this corner, I think you can just basically try different lines anyway.
Mm-hmm.
I think different lines can work.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this is
Or
the
at least it
thing.
was, yeah.
This is the thing I
Uh,
noticed. It's a very wide track, so it feels like there's so many different lines. Yeah, you could take.
yeah. Also, the section. We go to the next corner as well. But also, a section on the back of the track is a place where you can do a lot of different lines.
Mm-hmm.
All right, this is the next one. This is the very fast corner,
Yeah.
basically at the end of the S's or
Uh-huh.
the downhill corner.
Mm-hmm.
You see, Marty carries a lot more speed into it,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
but actually goes a little bit slower mid corner.
Mm-hmm.
So he just goes faster down the hill towards the apex.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And he does that by just braking later and
Yeah, quite a bit later.
longer.
Mm-hmm.
So lighter but longer.
Yeah.
It was also later.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I'm really what I have a good hang of is like a quick tap or maybe not too quick tap on the brake. And then lifting off. I think the challenge is that that's sort of easy because I typically would tap the brakes on a straight line and then I have all my traction for turning. When I start to try to tail brake more and turn, that's when I have difficulty because I just don't have the feel of how much and when to brake and turn.
Yeah, that is just a matter of practice, though. Just once you drive more and more, so you just get more and more of a feel for it.
So what's a safe way to try it? Because whenever I've tried, I would just spun out, and then maybe I just scale back my attempt too much, and then I'm not really doing it. So what would be a good way to practice?
Well, good way to practice. That's also something. Let me go back to turn 1 real quickly. As you see, Marty's brake here doesn't go down like yours, but actually increases slightly and then drops off. This is basically his chill braking, where he uses a little bit of brake to keep the weight on the front wheels. So actually to keep it grippy. If he brakes much more than this, it will just start to understeer. And actually, a similar thing would happen if you would brake less. So if he would not do this, he would not be able to get the rotation in.
Right.
So I guess this is a good way to practice your trail braking, is to see if you can improve the front bite of the car in a corner like this.
Okay.
This is also something I do in a GT car, for example. So back to the fast corner again. As you see, Martti carries a lot more speed, where the majority of his time is. And it drops down to a slightly slower speed on the exit, again to get the proper rotation in.
Yeah.
To make sure you don't need too much road on exit.
Yeah.
But in a way, even though this can be quite a difficult corner or tricky corner, it's pretty straightforward once you get a feel for it.
Yeah.
The next section, however, even though that looks quite straightforward, that's very, very technical. It's actually including the corner after this as well. The first corner, well, your line is very similar, but what I always try to do is basically turn in as late as I can without missing the apex. Because you get so much load or keep so much load on the car for such a long time. As soon as you touch the grass, it's very hard to get it back. So you usually end up hitting a guardrail or just spin around. So I was just clip the apex as much as I can, turning in late. So this is as straight as I can. And then the next corner, sort of stay out on the left-hand side.
Hey, Rens,
for the very long.
lost you for a few moments there. Something with the internet connection again. So can you start again with the next corner?
Yeah. You still have my screen?
Yeah, I still see it. Yeah.
Okay, so that's is that this one or the previous one still?
Yeah, that's the one. No,
Okay.
it was just a brief moment that I lost. You were just saying don't get on the grass because then you'll be in the guardrail. But
Yeah, you end up on the guardrail very, very, very quickly. Another thing is on entry of this corner, when you get out of the very fast one before, is to sort of try to maximize the road on the left. There's a sort of slight kink before you turn in.
Yeah.
If you can use that, then you obviously make this corner a little bit easier.
Yeah. I think I tried to go all the way on the left.
Yeah, so I always try to get through the fast corner, go back to the middle of the track a little bit to be able to use that kink here. So once you get through this one, make sure it's nice and straight. The straighter this here is, the easier it is to brake later into this corner. And this is a corner where you have a lot of different lines leading into the next.
Yeah.
Actually, these two are sort of one one big combination.
Yeah.
I'm usually a lot closer to what you do,
Yeah.
so I maximize this one and sort of ignore the approach for the next one.
Okay.
It might be different in a race situation where you're around cars, so you might want to be able to use both.
Right.
But doing it obviously, you go faster through here and lose a bit of time here.
Yeah. So yeah, I guess that's what we see in 5. I gain a little bit of time, but then I lose it in the next turn, probably because I'm sacrificing the entry there.
Yeah, exactly. So you would you gain here, and then you start losing here by I guess having to turn in at a slower speed because you make it turn a little bit tighter.
So I guess there's no right or wrong. It's just a matter of preference.
Yeah, it's whatever works for you. It's actually the same with setups a little bit. If it works for you, it works. And obviously it needs to feel nice. But if you can get the lap time with it, then it's a good thing. But I would just always play around with lines. Maybe one lap you want to, because you're approaching the previous corner, you're able to take it nice and tight, and then you can maximize it here. There's not necessarily a faster or slower line here.
Yeah.
It makes for really interesting race situations because there's a lot of passing opportunities with it.
Yeah.
The next corner is usually very, very tricky because it feels always quite low grip. Because the corner, or at least the exit, goes for quite long.
Yeah.
So obviously that's worse if you enter basically from the wrong side or from the left side of the track, because it makes the corner even tighter.
Yeah.
So if you really struggle with getting the power down, or getting not getting the oversteer, or just struggling with the rotation, it might pay off to try to take the previous corner a little bit slower.
Okay.
And basically just focus on this one.
And I guess here I'm mostly losing the time because I need to slow down more to get on the right trajectory.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
And that's something. It's just not really physically possible to do this at this speed.
Yeah. Okay.
That's something to play around with. See whatever works for you. If you can gain more time here than if you lose here, then obviously use the other line. This corner, it's the main importance is again the exit, because it leads onto one of the longer straights of the track.
Yeah.
And we'll go to the next one, which is a corner where the most gain can be made.
Yeah.
This corner is always a bit of a trade-off. You want to brake as late as possible, but you also don't want to end up as much on the left-hand side as possible. So it's sort of a trade-off.
So here I'm staying like couple of meters to the left.
Yeah, you use or you don't hit the apex as closely as Martti does. Not sure how much curb he uses.
I think he steps on it quite a bit.
Yeah, I think the limiting factor of the curb here is actually getting a 1x with it. So you can just try to use as much as you can. As you see, he turns in from a little bit late, further on the outside, which helps if you clip the apex to stay more on the right.
So I should stay as there's a curb on the left. I guess I shouldn't really be braking on the curb, but as close to the curb as possible.
Yeah, I would try to sort of stay off that curb, because it will hurt your not necessarily the inside curb here, but don't try to end up on there's sort of a different kind of curb just before the red and white curb start. If you end up there, you sort of make this corner so tight.
Yeah.
That you lose everything what you might have gained through it. You will lose an exit again.
Okay.
You have to slow down too much to get the rotation through the corner.
So that's essentially what's happening here? I'm too close to the inside, and
Yeah, and you have to slow down too much basically. So you're able to carry less speed through it and out of it.
And also, I guess on the exit, Marty takes out a wider line, from what I can tell.
Yeah, that as well. He's just maximizing the road.
Yeah. But I guess I don't have the speed to really push the car out that much.
Usually, you actually feel the need to even use more road if you take this line. If you try to take it with a similar speed.
Yeah.
But then still, you would lose the time on exit.
Yeah.
So you actually sort of save your corner by slowing down more. Therefore, you don't hurt your exit as much.
Yeah.
But still, you see the speed you carry onto this little straight already starts mid corner here. So if you actually go slower here, you actually lose out.
Yeah. Yeah, and I can see he's full throttle a few meters earlier than I am.
Yep. And he's also very aggressive on the throttle.
Yeah.
So he knows when he's going slow enough or has only that much of a corner left that he can go completely flat out.
So can you explain, like, is that kind of maintenance throttle that he does before that? Because he's just a little bit on the throttle for a bit. Yeah, right where the cursor is, the blue line. Because he starts with a little bit of throttle, maybe, what's it, 10%? Further, like, what's it, 31,500? Yeah, around there. So he starts very...
Yeah,
or is that me? Oh, that's me, that's not him.
Now he's also having a slight tap, but that's so little that I'm not even sure if this is on purpose. It might even be a...
just some correction?
15%. I guess he sort of tried to feel he's sort of tapping the throttle to get a feel for the moment when he is able to get fully on it.
So it's essentially just to probe, see if applying throttle...
Yeah, it's actually something that Ayrton Senna was famous of doing. Tapping the throttle before going flat out.
So what's the idea there? What do you gain by that?
Yeah, I don't really know. It's something that is regarding the F1 drivers is something that is more old school.
Does it help anything with the balance, or?
Well, it's just trying to be as early as you possibly can without actually going full throttle, just being completely ready to go.
Got it.
Flat out on it. So it's a bit of a feel thing.
So if you have like a little bit of traction, just make use of that before you can go full throttle.
Yeah, it's not something I'm do myself. It's only what I see from Marty's lab here.
Got it. Okay.
But this is why he is. I think why he is tapping the throttle slightly.
Got it.
Just to find the right moment where he can. So this is a personal thing or a pure driving style thing.
Yeah. Okay.
To the second to the last corner.
So this corner is really interesting because you can take a different amount of curb on the inside.
Yep.
And it almost feels to me like taking more curb is actually better because then you get more on a straighter line on the exit.
Yeah, you can basically just use all the curb on the inside as you like. You have to be slightly cautious on exit, but it's a pretty. It's not a very hard corner of the track.
Mm-hmm.
It is banked again, so it
Mm-hmm.
actually helps you get through it quite quickly. You just
Mm-hmm.
use a lot of curb,
Mm-hmm.
and make sure you get a nice and clean exit.
Mm-hmm.
Because actually this corner sort of already leads onto the main straight,
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
despite having the last corner still there.
Yeah. So I sometimes need to be off the throttle a little bit because getting on the curb more than just a tiny bit unsettles the car quite a lot. It gives me an X1. Um, I don't know, like it's, I guess once you're on the throttle, I mean, in the turn, you sort of know your trajectory and you know where you're gonna end up. I guess you sort of have a feel for that. Um, but I mean, sometimes I just feel like I'm going too slow. So when I notice this, how can I correct my? Should I just remember? Okay, move my full throttle point further back, or just wait a little bit longer before I go full throttle? If I
Yeah,
know I'm. Mm-hmm.
I would say wait a little bit longer.
Mm-hmm.
It's sort of a patience thing.
Mm-hmm.
You really want everybody really has that. You
Mm-hmm.
want to be on the power as soon as you can.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but it not always pays off to do it because of
Mm-hmm.
the reason you just said. So it's a patience thing.
Mm-hmm.
So I would just always move the flat out bit a little bit more forward.
Mm-hmm. And actually, looking at Martis, he actually lifts off a little bit. So he goes full
Yeah,
throttle earlier than I, and then I mean
yeah,
I
he
also
lifts
lift
off.
off. So
As you see, it
that.
actually also hurts him in his lap.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So if he would have been a little bit later, he might have even had a better exit.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You see that you use a little wider through the corner.
Mm-hmm.
So I think you use even more curb.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So you just make it a short trajectory,
Mm-hmm.
and then make sure again same for as at the back of the track.
Mm-hmm.
Make sure you don't end up on the grass.
Yeah.
It's a place where as soon as you hit the grass,
Yeah.
it's very hard to get it back.
Yeah.
The last corner is very important because it carries all the straight of all
Yeah.
the speed
Uh-huh.
onto the straight,
Mm-hmm.
which actually do really nicely. A little bit faster mid corner
Mm-hmm.
and lose that speed slightly on exit.
Mm-hmm.
So it would pay off to uh, lift a little bit earlier.
Mm-hmm.
It's not much.
Mm-hmm.
It's also not more, but it's a little bit longer.
Yeah.
And again, that's all. It's all a feel thing.
Mm-hmm.
Knowing when you have the too much speed or not enough speed for a turn.
Mm-hmm.
And you see it's only just over a kilometer an hour, so it's very very subtle.
Mm-hmm.
But that does give you not as much of an exit
Yeah.
as he does.
Yeah.
So I would always focus on maximizing the exit.
Yeah.
That's always what I advise.
Mm-hmm.
And I also always try to maximize the exit and not necessarily worry too much about the braking
Mm-hmm.
or the approaches, and sort of leave that to till last.
Mm-hmm.
Just make sure you get the apex speeds correct and get
Mm-hmm.
the exits correct.
Mm-hmm. 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 So I have a question for you about the delta bar.
Yep.
Previously, I never used it, but I started using it now, and it seems to be very helpful. Um, do you have some tips on how to use it effectively? I think one of the reasons I never turned it on previously is because I was staring at it too much, and it was actually distracting me, and I was making mistakes because I was looking at the delta bar instead of looking at the track. Um, So yeah, can you give me some tips on how to use it efficiently?
Yeah. Well, first of all, like you said, it is very easy to get distracted by. So always try to not really pay too much attention to it. Sort of be aware of it in your peripheral vision.
Mm-hmm.
If you use a lap file of one of our coaches, and that's a significantly faster lap, I always try to get as close as you can. One of the good thing, for example, what you quite often see is that people actually try to brake too late.
Mm-hmm.
If you have a lap file, you will notice that because into a turn one, especially then, for example,
Mm-hmm.
The delta bar would suddenly turn green, which is a sign that you at that very moment actually are gaining on the lap file,
Right.
or the reference lap. But that then into a braking zone, that means you're actually braking too late.
Yeah.
It also will help it really make it visual where you lose time. If you want to play with different lines, like I said, in the back of the track, you can see where you gain some time and then how much you lose after that.
Yeah. Yeah. So especially when you're in the middle of braking, you just like you said, I should just pay attention with my peripheral vision whether it briefly turns green.
Yeah,
If
you will
it,
notice into a turn one, if you, for example, brake too late normally, you will see that just before you hit your brakes, it suddenly turns green.
Okay.
Because you suddenly gain a lot of time for a very brief moment.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's a good sign that you might want to move your brake marker a little bit more backward.
Okay. Okay.
The opposite thing, obviously, when it goes red really quickly into a braking zone, you might brake too early.
So this can actually be a really good tool for timing. If the light, whatever the light is at the moment, if it stays the same, it means you're actually hitting the same breakpoint. But if it changes color, it means you're doing something different
Yeah.
from what you're supposed to.
Well, if you drive versus your own lap, for example, I never do this in a race, but always only in practice. But if you want to try to find a brake later and later and later, see how late you can brake. You can sort of use the same thing. Wait till it goes green and then jump on the brakes. That's basically just a split second later, but that can be enough to actually gain something.
Okay. So just paying attention to color changes around the braking point.
Yeah, around braking point and also around exits, especially for if you drive versus your own lap. Ideally, you always want to see it turn green or whitish on exit.
Yeah.
So yeah, one of the good things will be if you struggle or if it always goes red onto straights or out of corners. Yeah, that's also a sign to maybe look at your approach, because you might be doing something different or something. Yeah.
And then for races, you turn it off?
It really depends on what race or what circumstances. I personally like to actually use it and either use the session best lap usually in a sprint race, and in a longer race I usually use the last lap I did.
Okay.
So that will get updated every lap. And that helps me just keep an eye on my lap times.
Okay. Because over a longer race, tires, fuel, all of that has impact on.
Yeah, exactly.
On the lap times. Okay.
Yeah, in the sprint race, that's a lot less of an effect, but in the endurance race, I would say the drop-off can be to maybe even a second and a half, maybe even more, depending on the track.
Yeah.
But it's quite important then to find a rhythm find a certain lap time where you're able to keep the tires in a nice working window.
Yeah. How about, I think what I currently have it set on is comparing against my overall optimal. I mean, so far I've only been driving in default weather conditions, so the moment I go into a random weather session, that would screw up my lap file. But um, yeah, that's what I do. Would you recommend something else as like a default for practicing?
Well, I personally prefer to always use a real lap.
Mm-hmm.
So there's no optimal.
Okay.
But I know plenty of people that do use it.
Mm-hmm.
So that's also the thing. Yeah, what works best for you?
Yeah.
I personally, depending on the session, if I practice, I usually use just my all-time best lap from that track,
Mm-hmm.
which I, by the way, always clear every season
Okay.
to make sure I don't try to hit the lap time that is not possible.
Right. Because of sim changes?
Yeah, sim changes or weather conditions are different, or there are just too many differences.
Mm-hmm.
So I always use my all-time best lap,
Okay.
and if I practice for a race, like for example the Spa race we had, and I get into a practice session where I'm struggling to get my or close to my all-time best,
Mm-hmm.
then sometimes I even turn it off completely.
Mm-hmm.
But usually I actually switch to session best
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
because then I have a time I can improve,
Okay.
and it just gives me a more of a positive feedback rather than having a lap
Yeah.
time that you can't hit.
Yeah, yeah. I've noticed that myself. If it's right all the time, it's like, what the heck am I doing?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So sometimes it pays off to just to switch that lap time and
Mm-hmm.
use a different lap.
Okay.
Usually session best is then the one I would say use that one.
Yeah. So so sort of a high level question I have is, I think I need to work quite a bit on consistency still, and I think some sessions it just feels very good and I can go faster, but then the next session I'm like slower or make more mistakes. Um, do you have any tips for how to be more consistent between sessions and within a session?
Well, I will always try to do some longer stints. So don't do a couple of laps and then
Mm-hmm.
constantly try to do a hot lap.
Mm-hmm.
Usually, if you do longer stints, it will actually help you get it into a certain rhythm, which
Mm-hmm.
will help you with your consistency.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And then maybe try to hit your fastest lap time in a longer stint always.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay, so would you say like 20-30 minute stints or?
Um, well, depending on the track, this is almost a 2 minute lap, so I would say 7 to 10 laps stints,
Mm-hmm.
and see if you can hit it in there.
Okay.
Uh, well, should not. That sort of also forces you to not overdrive too much,
Mm-hmm.
which might not be that much of an issue in a Skippy.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But some cars, if you push them really hard from one lap,
Mm-hmm.
then they'll actually drop off quite
Uh-huh.
badly and quite quickly.
Okay. So something like 10 lap stints, and then I do try to do my own telemetry analysis. Would you say every 10 laps look at the data, or should I maybe do a couple of 10 lap stints in a session and only then go back and look at my data?
Well, I would say do two or so. Basically, just do one, and then try to do another one. See if you
Mm-hmm.
can improve.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, if you improve a lot, then you might want to do another one.
Mm-hmm.
But if already you're struggling to hit the lap time from your first stint,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, you might want to have a look
Okay.
at your telemetry.
Okay, so first stint is sort of just a warm up, reminding myself, just remembering the track, getting up to speed a little bit.
Yep.
Then a short pause, and then a second 10 lap stint to see like what my actual pace is.
Yeah, exactly. And like I said, that's also something I do personally. I always treat the first couple of laps, or maybe even the first small stint you do in a session,
Uh-huh.
as sort of a warm up, and don't
Yeah.
really pay much attention to the lap time.
Yeah, I actually don't do this. I like just jump in and try to go super fast. So maybe that's not a good habit to have, because I've noticed it's also frustrating if the very first lap, very first turn, it's usually like low speed turns anyway, and I brake too late, spin out, or just lose a lot of time. It just sets off the whole practice. It's just a bad start to the whole practice psychologically. So
Yeah, I guess this is also different for everybody, but I like to always build into my pace into every session, every new session. It doesn't really matter if I've done multiple sessions previously in the same week, or it's a new one. I always try to do just a warm-up lap, basically.
Okay.
Time lap.
Yeah. Okay. I think for me, I think it would be helpful because I'm just competitive. I always want to improve my lap times, and then when I start off on sort of the wrong foot, it can be demotivating.
Yep.
So then maybe the best thing would be first 3-4 laps, just even turn off the delta bar. Don't even bother about lap time.
Yep.
Just a few smooth laps around the track, and then start focusing on improving.
Yeah. Also, if you just want to get used to the track or used to the car and see what it can do, it might already be beneficial to just turn the lap delta off, so you can purely focus on the car and track without having the distraction of the lap time.
Yeah. Okay. Cool.
But yeah, that was your lap basically. Like I said before, you're already incredibly quick.
Yeah, thanks. I think, yeah, having Martti's data to compare against in the replay were super helpful, because I could see where there were big differences, and then I could load up the replay and see exactly what line he takes. I slow down the replay to like quarter of normal speed, and then pay close attention to how far out he stays, when exactly he applies the brake, how long, when does he start turning. For example, I see that he clears the curb on the left before he starts turning the wheel. So yeah, I think the telemetry is really helpful for directing my attention to the turns and what kind of driver input I should pay attention to. And then I just loaded up the replay and could analyze it in slow motion to really pick up those visual cues, which are much more useful to apply to the driving, because the telemetry, the lines, you don't really have the reference points, but once you see the cockpit view of the replay.
The telemetry is usually very good to see what you're doing differently, and the replay is very good to see how you're doing differently.
Yeah, how to do it. Yeah.
And also like I said, for visual cues, it's really important. Even though you might do something different than Martti or myself, just watching them from on board at a brake marker, you can in the replay you can look for what you can see and maybe use as a marker. So yeah, it's just really helpful to go back and keep looking at the replay.
Yeah, so I'm really happy with my progress so far this week. I don't think it would have been possible without the data pack, without the telemetry, and without the replay. So do you have some advice? So far this week I've only been practicing in practice sessions in default weather, so that I can really take advantage of the data pack. So at what point should I switch to dynamic weather and racing with other folks? I definitely wanna, by the end of the week, do at least a few races to see how I do relative to others. But in terms of sort of a schedule for the week, what would you recommend?
Well, it depends a bit on who you want to race. I guess the Skippies are quite popular throughout the week as well, and I assume during the weekend the fields are a bit more competitive. Like I said, it depends on who you want to race. But if you want to be have the best chance of the best competition, I would always sort of wait for the weekend, sort of practice towards or midweek for the weekend,
Yeah.
and just try to get as consistent and then also as fast as you possibly can. Based on your lap times here, that's already really competitive compared to Martti's. So I focus on consistency and do a race, because there's no better better preparation for a race than doing a race.
So is there any advantage of doing a practice session? I mean, it would be random weather and there would be people on track, but am I better off practicing in private session default weather? Because once I start doing the practice sessions, I won't get telemetry that's comparable, so I won't know if I'm doing anything better or wrong. I guess I can still look at just breakpoints, turning points, and see if I'm still doing what I used to do, even though the weather is different and the lap times might be different. But should I just jump from a private test session to a race, or do you think maybe it's worthwhile to do a day of practice in a practice server?
Well, I think it's at least worthwhile to do some laps in an open practice server.
Okay.
To just get an idea of how different some of the weather conditions might be. I'm not sure how much variance there is now in the Skippys for Zandvoort, but it can be quite big from a cloudy day where you get really fast lap times to a really slippery day. But usually I always try to aim and practice for your lap time in private, and sort of once you get your lap times or lap times you're aiming for, go in and practice and just try to repeat the same driving as you've done in private, and just see how fast you can go with it.
Do you find
if it's a lot cooler, for example, there's more grip, so you notice that you are able to go faster through a corner, maybe even brake later or go in the power earlier.
Okay.
And the opposite is true when it might be even warmer.
Okay.
Although default is always already quite a bit on the warmer side of the dynamic weathers.
Okay. Okay. So once I develop a feel for it, I'll be able to adjust my driving style to the weather. But even if I just try to replicate what I learned in the private session, that should be a pretty good starting point.
Yeah, I would always basically just replicate the same driving in another session. And you might notice that some corners you can do a little bit quicker than you used to. And that's something why it's important to get at least some laps in there,
right.
So you know how different it can be.
Okay, cool. So I think I'll practice a little bit more, and then maybe on Friday I'll do a practice session, and then Saturday, Sunday I'll just do races.
Yeah, but it's also good to get used to racing around other cars, because they can be quite unpredictable sometimes.
Okay, so maybe a day or two of practice server.
Well, a day or two. I'd say do at least 1 full hour session, but I ideally just basically 2 1 hour sessions. Okay. I mean, if you do more, it will never hurt.
Yeah. But that's the minimum.
Yeah, but if I also why I say 2 different ones of 1 hour rather than one of 2 hours.
Got it.
Is because you might actually get 2 different weather conditions.
Right, makes sense. Okay.
Cool. But it's not necessarily something you need to spend hours in.
Yeah.
It's just something to get a feel for.
Yeah.
And it can be fun as well. So.
Yeah, definitely. Yes, I look forward to the weekend. Thanks a lot, Rens. This was very helpful.
Okay, of course.
Yeah, I'll practice a little bit more, and maybe we can even do a follow-up session later in the week, depending on what questions come up.
Okay.
Okay, cool. Thanks.
No problem. And I'll speak to you later.
Yeah,
good luck.
Talk to you later. Thank you.